Hello, I'm Karma Kitaj, and I'm your host for A Livelihood, New Adventures as We Age. And today I'm going to introduce you to Meg Stafford, who has encountered some obstacles in her life, as well as some joys, and she's going to tell us about how she has navigated these sometimes rough waters. So welcome, Meg.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
And I'm going to reach over and get your book here, which I was just talking about with you. It's called The Topic of Cancer.
Mm-hmm. Riding the Waves of the Big Sea. I like to consider that part of the...
Riding the Waves of the Big Sea. And this is a book that you recently published, right?
Yes, last year.
And it's got a wonderful picture on it, which we will be showing on the screen. But you told me this is you sandboarding, correct?
Yes.
You're very athletic, you tell me, and active. And I know you've done a big trek lately, right?
Right. I hiked with my traveled to Nepal with my younger daughter, left her at the Kopan Monastery out in Kathmandu. And then while she was there doing a program on meditation and Buddhism, I trekked to the Annapurna base camp with a friend of mine. So it's around 14,000 feet. So that was a 10-day loop, 6 up and 4 back. And it was stunning. It was just beautiful and so much fun in lots of ways.
We have some pictures from your trek too.
Yes.
So
yeah. It's hard to choose because I loved all the terracing, and one of the amazing things about trekking in Nepal is that you pass through little villages, tiny little villages, or people are getting food or supplies to one another via foot, the donkey at first, and then as you get higher, it's on people's backs or strapped to their heads.
So let us talk about your journey, the one that brought you to write this book, Topic of Cancer. So you were diagnosed with cancer
Breast cancer.
With breast cancer.
Yeah, June of 2007.
Yeah.
So.
And the book really is a compilation of messages that you had sent out to your loved
friends
ones,
and family.
I guess.
Yeah. Because it's
just detailing your process, what you were going through, huh?
It's because there was a lot of information to assimilate and to convey to people. Anyone who wanted to know, I wanted to be able to tell them, but I could not repeat it over and over again. That was just, it made me crazy. Yeah. And I have always loved to write and started sending email. I sent out a group email telling people what was happening. And then as it became clear that there were a lot of choices along the way and it was going to stretch out over a long period of time, the email list grew. And also, so sometimes I would write just a brief thing about something that happened, or sometimes it would be longer about my experiences, what I observed, or there's sometimes just about silly little stuff that happened along the way. So it was a permeable membrane that went back and forth. People would comment on whatever I'd written, and or they would let me know that they understood something that they hadn't understood that a relative went through. So it was a really important vehicle for me. And them, I think.
Important in what way? Can you say more about that?
I think that writing to people and being in touch with them was part of what helped me to get it out of my system and get through the whole experience. A tool that had always been helpful, and in times of transition I tend to write more or journal more, but because there was so much going on all the time and so much to assimilate, I was writing more.
Yeah, and I see you have a number of awards already. right?
Yes,
Which
yes.
is very exciting.
It is exciting. It's, in fact, I had help sending it out to different award companies, and so I sent it to 6 different places. And when I was in the middle of Nepal on my trek, at that place that I was checking email, I noticed an email from Wyatt McKenzie, who had helped me publish Nancy Cleary, saying, "Congratulations, you're a finalist."
Let's just talk a little bit more about what's in the book and what might be appealing to a reader. So one thing that popped into my mind when you were talking was about just the telling of it to people in your network. I mean, you had a mailing list of people whom you know, you wanted to reach, but yet I'm sure there was a whole much wider network of people that you ran into, your children's, friends' parents, and that. And what was the process like for you of just wondering whether somebody knew or didn't know, or what you should tell or what you shouldn't tell? What was that like?
It was it was always interesting, and sometimes I could tell that someone knew because they would approach me very intentionally and say, "How are you?" And I could
meaningful.
Yes, it was very
intonation,
right. But there were other times I would run into someone in the grocery store. I happened a couple of times. It was with my daughter. We were picking up a couple things, and "Hey, how's your summer?" And it's like, and I would just stop dead like a deer in the headlights. And she said, this one woman said, "It's not a hard question." It was like, but it is. And there were times I would find out that people had known, and I had no idea that they knew. That it made me very teary once, because at the bazaar in our town at Christmas time, I ran into someone who I hadn't seen and started to tell her, and she said, "Oh, I'm already aware of that, and I think of you every time I pass by your house." And it just sort of makes sense. She was, her daughter was friends with friends of my daughter, and so it was odd to think of people thinking of me, but but one of the really important things that I learned during my treatment was that it was okay to ask for help, that I could count on other people, and that not only did people really want to help, but that it was important for them and for me, so that I didn't have to feel like I had to be independent and do it all myself.
And you're also a psychotherapist and an executive coach, right? So during the process of your treatment, I guess as much as you had the energy for that, you continued to work with clients, right?
Yes.
How did that go for you?
It mostly went well. It was I made a promise to myself that I wouldn't go to the office if I couldn't focus, if I couldn't concentrate and be there. And I held to that. So it meant that if I was in my office, I could really, it was helpful to be outside myself and to be doing something that I had always been doing. And
so just the other thing we glossed over a little while ago that we haven't talked about is the fact that you've always liked writing, and you write a column for your local newspaper. So in the last moment or so that we have here, maybe you can just mention that.
And in fact, the column is called A Moment's Notice. And I love doing it, and I write about all kinds of things. I've started doing some writing about the trek that I went on and my experience with my daughter, and that's a real source of joy. So I will continue to do more writing.
And I think you said a lot of those articles are linked to your website, is that right?
They are. I have posted many of the recent ones on my website, on the blog.
And why don't you say what your website is?
www.megstafford.com. So you can find me that way.
And we'll have that up on the screen.
Awesome.
Yeah.